There will come a day when new life turns sepulchre, and beads and baubles chains the bed a lone stone slab on this day call home. Plunge veiny hands into soft delta dirt, stain them red and brown, baptize yourself in earth. The only balm be the mud. Let loose a cry and jump and dance and shake and shiver, make tears your lover. On this day we call home. We call and they will come in their dresses of homespun eggshell and their wide-brimmed straw hats, and have a laying on of hands, tongue, feet, and forehead. Call home, and we hear them walk. So take my hand, precious love, lead us home. Today I want to tell you a little bit about a story and a project. I was in the basement of my house one day, and I was just sitting in my rocking chair, this actual rocking chair that I'm in right now, and something told me to go outside. Just a nagging thought in the back of my head, just go outside. I didn't want to, but I got up. I went outside and down the driveway where my friends, Jabril, CJ, no relation, Lionel and I, we would all play. As I got further and further down the street, I started noticing balloons and broken bottles and glasses and things of that nature. Basically the ephemera of a memorial of some sort. As I got closer, there were these votive candles, these white votive candles that spelled out a name, and the letters were Lionel, Lionel. And that was the day that I found out that he had been shot and killed 3 blocks away from my house. And that's the day when I realized that we got to do something different. We have to do some different kind of work. So I started doing some research. And in that research, I was basically looking for other ways of thinking about myself, thinking about specifically black men and boys and masculine folks, black masculine folks, thinking about the ways that we think of ourselves, wondering if there were other ways, if there were these alternative mythologies that we could develop. So in her book, We Real Cool Black Men and Masculinity, Bell Hooks talks a little bit about the sort of cycle of demonization and psycho-spiritual self-harm that communities of black men, boys, and masculine folks may go through and sort of perpetuate and come into contact with. And she calls this process basically dismemberment, like pieces of ourselves being scattered as a result of what Cornel West calls soul murder. It's basically a nihilistic choice to choose death and destruction over life. This is by no means saying death and destruction is the only thing that black men and boys choose. However, it is saying that there is a psychological and spiritual condition amongst black men and boys specifically in our society. And this is exactly what she says, if I can read it to you. She says, by writing this book, I hope to challenge the misguided notion that ours is a culture that loves black men. I want to make it clear that there's a crisis in the black male spirit in our nation, and that crisis is not because black men are an endangered species. Rather, it is a crisis perpetuated by widespread dehumanization, by the continued placement of black males outside the category of human, one that identifies them as animal, beast, other, which is precisely what happens when anyone deploys the phrase most commonly used to speak of animals, endangered species, when describing the lot of black men. One thing I love about Bell Hooks is that she doesn't just leave us there. She gives us tools. She gives us suggestions. One thing that she suggests is that we can study the work of black women and black femme writers and thinkers, specifically black womanists and black feminist thinkers, to devise new ways of thinking of ourselves in community. And so she poses this to us. She says, go out, go study, go create things based off of what you've studied and bring it back to the communities of black men and boys. And so this is the task that I've taken up. And also the purpose of this talk is to talk a little bit about how this task came to be for me. And so I chose 3 black femme thinkers and womanists and feminist thinkers to sort of study and then reverse engineer some of their ideas. So the first one was Ntozake Shange, the playwright and creator of the choreo poem, and writer of For Color Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Was Enough. And the second one was Audre Lorde, of course, warrior poet, black feminist scholar, artist, and author of Zami, A New Spelling of My Name, a biomythography. And Louisa Tiche, a spiritual practitioner, dancer, and author of the book Jambalaya, the Natural Woman's Book to Personal Charms and Practical Rituals. So in my estimation, coming into contact with all sorts of literature after receiving that call from Bell Hooks, through the work of Ntozake Shange and Audre Lorde and Louisa Tiche, I found that there were communities of black women thinkers and writers who were thinking about how to reshape themselves. And even Bell Hooks acknowledges this when she says that a lot of black women thinkers have been able to turn around their self-perception from one of just the physical to a kind of spiritual and storytelling and mythological condition of self. So each one of these three women did it in a different way, and exploring their work taught me so much about how to confront my own mask and how to do away with it. So Tiche taught me the power of ritual, African-American folkways, and intuition. Lorde introduced me to the concept of a biomythography, a potent mixture of myth, history, and autobiography designed to resist false and uncomplicated narratives embedded in our culture. And Shange whispered new kinds of words in my ears, words that could create new worlds and tear down the old. So I went to work, writing about these characters that would come to me in front of an altar and snatches of a dream. They would whisper in my ear during a class and demand my attention. Hear us, know us, conjure us. And these folks' names were Lil Man and Youngblood and The Messenger and Quiet Eyes, Brother Sunday, Dr. Bones. They became more than just these characters. They became these archetypes, these mythological figures that would guide my work and my life. And they gave me a name for them, or rather the collection of them, which is Orphan. So the Orphan project spawned this 23-card oracle deck designed in collaboration with Tom V. Bagel over at Temple University. And what we were able to do was take a practice of remembering, of putting black men and boys back together through my own story by creating these characters that represented all these different kinds of ways that I could think about myself. Now we get to that question, what does this have to do with Lionel, that story about that boy that I knew that grew into a man that then died way too young? So a few months before his death, I saw him at the barbershop around the way from my house. My barber was shaping me up, and this tall black boy strides over to dap him up. He wasn't well. There was a syrupy haze about him, like he was living in a dream, despondent and distant. But yes, behind those murky eyes was that young Jamaican boy who used to race scooters with me in the concrete driveway connecting our houses. And Lionel stood before us looking real grown. And I asked him if he recognized me, and he mumbled something I couldn't hear. And he dapped me up, and he eased away. And my barber, his name was Scoop, shook his head as we watched him go, and he told me that he had lost his way. What if instead of shaking his head, my barber looked at Lionel and said that there are other ways to be? And what if he had embraced him as a friend and a brother? What if I had? What if the man who held the gun that killed him had been told that a cold piece of steel can't make him feel loved? What if both of them knew that no argument was worth either of their lives? And then what if they knew that they could feel the sun instead, or just be free with no mask at all? So my idea worth spreading is that it's high time that we as black men and boys and masculine folk come together to form communities which support, nurture, and love on each other. The cars, those archetypes, the characters are more than just images. There are ways to know ourselves as black men and boys beyond stereotypes, beyond the limits of what even we think we can be, beyond the proverbial mask. So I want to end with this poem. Remember me. Chant my true name until the wick burns low. Offer me comfrey leaves from my battered body and chamomile to make it go down easy. Recover me. Trace my footsteps to the wisdom house. Find my laughs recorded in the forest of whispers. Keep my singing book close to your heart. Revival me. Unsalt my tongue and watch my gardens grow. Wrap granny's quilt around your shoulders. Let the warmth fill you, instigating memories. Take my soul in your hands and rock me so that I might feel whole again. Thank you.